Welcome to Healing Generations, a podcast creating a dialogue uplifting the importance of healing, strengthening, and supporting our communities, and that addresses the disparities and inequities in communities of color. Healing Generations is brought to you by the Healing Generations Institute, a collaborative initiative of the National Compadres Network and the Brotherhood of Elders. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on our new releases.
Buenas, this is Francisco Gallardo with the Healing Generations Podcast, Yelder Edition. I want to welcome our listeners, subscribers, followers, and first-time listeners. I want to thank you for tuning in and hearing the stories of healing, of redemption, of hope. It's very important that we take the time to listen and reflect not only on our lives, but other people's lives, right? It provides us inspiration, reminds us of what's important in life, which I really appreciate myself, especially this time of year, during the holidays, a lot of people feel a little depressed and, it's one of those times where miracles can happen. People feel giving during this time of year, which is great. But if you're one of those who feeling sad, feeling just lost a little bit, I want you to think, just take a little time right now and breathe. And I want you to, we're going to honor the four directions, take the time to face the East, the place where the men are from. We want to honor our grandfathers, our fathers, our sons. We want to honor them. We want to remember them, our uncles, our homies. We want to remember all the things that they bring, We want to think about them in our lives. Even the ones that are struggling, we want them to have good health and help, as they say. Then we're going to turn to the West. But before we get to that, we want to think of that spectrum in between. All our relatives who don't fit nicely in the male role or the female role, they're in the middle. We want to acknowledge them. Tell them we love them, And as we get to that West direction and we think of our grandmothers and our mothers, our daughters, our partners, our wives, we want to think about them, their cariño, their love, their struggle, the single moms, the ones, the families, partners, however you see it, we want to bring their energy in. We want them to feel good, and we want to remember them in everyday life, that we're doing things that support them and help them. And then we turn to the North, our elders, the ancestors, we want to thank our ancestors for thinking about us, trying to make life a little bit better for us. And we want to think about things that they did for us, the sacrifices, the little ones, the big ones, the trauma that they went through. We want good things, because of that, of what they went through. And with that, our elders too, those that are right now, it's cold in many parts of the country. And we want to think about them too. We want to think about them, that they have all that they need. They have blankets, they have food, they have, feel loved. They're not lonely, It's tough, it's tough for our elders. I see it in my mom. I see it with other elders. We want to do our best to make them feel acknowledged, feel loved and feel useful. It's important. And then we go to the South, where we think about the future generations, our children, those that are not even here, the way our ancestors, the way our parents prayed for us even before we got here, had all these hopes. What if? We want that what if to be true. We want our kids to have a better planet. We want the kids to have a better society. We want the kids to feel good about themselves and about what we did for them as well. And what they're going to do, to make that, as my relatives, Lakotas, talk about 7 generations. We want that to be acknowledged in that way. And then we want to thank the sun for its warmth. It reminds us, when that sun hits you, for some reason, it gives you hope. It feels good, feels love. It feels like love. That's all I can say, And I want you to touch the earth, Don Unseen, I want you to think about Mother Earth, all the things that are going on with the planet right now. It's up to us all around the world to do something good for our planet. Think about it. Try to reduce our footprint. They say things like that, but we want to acknowledge all living creation. We want to acknowledge them because it's important. We live in harmony. There's a cycle, and we're just a part of that cycle. We're not above it or below it. We're just a part of it. That circle, the sacred circle that we talk about, sacred hoop, as they call it. So with that, we want to acknowledge the Creator. However you want to believe, whatever it is for you, if that's Jesus, if that's Allah, whatever, the grandfather, however, O Mateo, we want you to, acknowledge life, even if you don't believe in nothing. Just that miracle of life, the spark of life. We call it the Olin, the connection between us, the Tloque and the Wake. We want us to be filled that way. So I want to say a ho to each and every one of you. Thank you for taking that time, just to acknowledge the four directions. And we want good things, again, for each and every one of you. Today we have a special guest to me. I met Luis. His name is Luis Cardona. I met him many years ago at a conference that we had. It was sponsored in part by Barrios Unidos. It was called the Urban Peace Summit in Kansas City, Missouri, 1993, I believe. Mm-hmm. It was 92. Yeah, it was one of those things that was beautiful, man. When I went, there was organizations, Black and Chicano, primarily the Puerto Rican, Latino, and Mexican from all over the Southwest, California, Colorado, everywhere. We also had people from Chicago, from New York, from Milwaukee. I mean, just all these random places. But it was beautiful because there's one thing that we were interested in, which was peace. We wanted somehow to bring peace to the barrios, to the campos, to the hood, whatever you call it, the ghetto. We wanted to bring peace, and we still do. Many of us are still peace warriors in this movement. We've grown up in it, became men in it, trying to do something better for our community. And Luis was one of those. I met him there. I knew he was sharp from the minute I met him. In fact, what's interesting is a lot of the people that we met at those conferences, the early conferences, they're still doing the work in many ways, which is beautiful. You know what I mean? And Nane Alejandres from Barrios Unidos in Santa Cruz. I mean, he had a vision. All the people that were a part of it, Mary Lou, Elizabeth, so many people, they really did something I don't even think people even realize. That spark, to me, really affected my life in many ways. So with that, Luis, I want to welcome you, bro. I want to say, Tlaxcomali to you. Thank you for giving us a little bit time in your day. And just to let the listeners know, I actually recorded Luis one time before, which we had some technical difficulties and I lost the interview. Apparently we didn't wait for it to upload, technology and everything. But anyway, I want to just say what's up, Luis. I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself, with your introduction, your family, your background, and your journey at this point in life.
Yeah, buenos dias, Cisco. Always great seeing you, brother. It's been a great journey for us, brother. So thank you for acknowledging me in that good way and for getting us grounded in a very good way. Luis Cardona here, hijo de Marta Cardona, hijo de Pablo Morales, nieto de doña Tina Rivera Morales and Don Luis Morales out of Humacao, Puerto Rico. But raised in my early childhood in the South Bronx and then migrating down south to Washington, D.C., which is my other home. I always tell people I feel like I'm trapped between two wonderful cities, New York City, of course, the Bronx, but also Washington, D.C., which has been home as well. And so, part of my journey for the past 29 years, is about trying to make right a lot of my wrongdoings as a young man, but also as part of that, while giving back and guiding young people and communities and families, is to continue to heal myself, make myself a better person. I'm married to a wonderful wife, Diana Cardona, who's just amazing. A lot of the brothers and Nacho Compadres Network know my wife, and they know, they know what she has to put up with me, but they also know that she's a wonderful woman, wife, and mother. And so also I have my children, Tony, Nina, Luisito, and Martin, who are the loves and joys of my life, and the main reason that I continue to do what I do, just to help make this be a better world for them and for whatever future generations they choose to bring into this world, and just going back again, just being a part of this kind of, stop the violence, in barrio warfare movimiento for a long time. You mentioned Nani, and he planted so many seeds, and we always talk about that. I just talked to Nani maybe about a week ago or something, and we always talk about the impact that he had, and for me in doing this work, and kind of, as you alluded to, our roles have adjusted in this movimiento and the work that we do. I'm now working in local government here in Montgomery County, Maryland, in the Department of Health, where I oversee our violence prevention, gang intervention programs, and our high school-based wellness centers, and newcomer initiatives supporting newcomer youth that our extended relatives that come from south of the border, from Central America, and also just trying to do whatever I can in my role as a senior administrator to open the doors of opportunity for others and other young people, because I believe that's one of the things that whether it's Nani or Maestro Jerry or Brother Keo or many others who've been doing this work for a long time, whose shoulders we stand on. It's about how we open the doors for those other generations, And so I believe I'm in that point in my life now where that's where my focus is now. I don't do the hands-on work per se, but I still stay connected to many of the young people who are now primarily adults. And every now and then, a young person comes into my life that we work with or deal with. But primarily my focus is, what I can do to leave my experiences, and not always what I did right, but what I did wrong, so that those who continue doing this work and carrying the baton can continue to play an active role in this.
Thank you for that. It's ironic what you're talking about is like our roles change where we have a lot of information. Like I was talking to one of my bros who's an outreach worker in Denver, and I was telling him, like, laying out a plan for him to deal with some issues that are going on over there. And we have a lot of information. We have a lot of knowledge that we need to somehow share it, organize it, that we could share it. I don't know what that looks like these days. I mean, is that a book? Is that a series of teachings? That's part of what Healing Generations is about, is trying to figure out how can we pass this knowledge that we have on, And I always wanted to, one of my goals is to document the Barrio Peace movement. And I'm not sure how I'm gonna do it yet, but I've been wanting to do that because I think it's ironic, So tell us a little bit about those lessons that you learned from your culture, your family, your life experiences along the way that helped you in your own healing. Because really, that's the goal, right? To stop all this nonsense violence, we need to heal one another. We need to recognize that we are sacred, we are a blessing. And that those youth that we rap to, it's generational too. That their moms, that the youth, the dads, everybody, that they're sacred, and no matter what happened to you, healing takes work. But this is an important time that we deal with it. So, what are those lessons?
So one of the few opportunities I do have to do some kind of hands-on work. And unfortunately, due to the pandemic, I have not been able to do it yet. We're still waiting on the county to clear those protocols. But I ran a círculo with young brothers in the detention facility here in the county. And these are all juvenile young men, youth, that have been tried as adults. So they've been charged with very serious crimes. And one of the discussions we always get into all the time, and this is a very cultural conversation, is around fatherhood. And most of these young men are African American boys from anywhere from as young as 14 to 22 years of age. And, some brown youth as well, but primarily black youth. And many times they hear me tell the story about what it was like to grow up without my father, because all of them can relate to that, because all of them had the same experience, because most of them, well, not in my case, but in the case of many of those other young boys, they didn't have their fathers in their life because of incarceration. And so, sometimes, when we do Círculo, right, one of the things we always talk about is who do we dedicate today's participation to. And so on occasion, I talk about my father. And I talk about my father because I know that he would have benefited from being able to sit in Círculo. He's a real good man, but we didn't grow up together. And so one of the things is interesting, because these young men, they always listen to you, especially when you're in Círculo, and they remember everything you say. And so often they always talk about, well, wait a minute, why are you dedicating this to your father, whatever? He wasn't in your life. And, as I've been reminded by a lot of my other maestros, it's like, look, man, sometimes our fathers were just working with what they knew, with what they grew up with, or the lack thereof. And so I tell him, well, I talk about it because he taught me the most important lesson as a man, as a husband, and as a father. And that is to make sure that my wife and my children and those significant loved ones never go through the pain and experience that I went through. That is my role. So I'm actually grateful. And I tell him this all the time. And me da pena because, sometimes he, you could tell he feels guilty about it. And I'm like, hey, Efito, man, it's good. I love you. What happened. But, my relationship with you is very important to me, And I would say that for most of the young people that we work with, that's that piece. How do we work through that cultural experience? When there's been an absence of one of the most important people in your life, your father, because then you got to navigate this world based on what you think is best. And so I've been grateful to have a lot of good mentors in my life that connected me with that, but also have taught me how to use cultura, whether it's through the arts, whether through music, through ceremonia, or lo que sea, right? The drumming, suelage, whatever it may be, to help reconnect to that sacredness, like you were saying,
Yeah, that's important. What you said about fathers, about them. I think about my own father too. Many of the kids I work with, where my dad was around, but he didn't have the skills really to show me the love. Like I always want, to me, like a lot of our mentors, Maestro Jerry and Nane, and these mentors we have. I have a few. My tios back in Denver, they're my mentors, man. They're my dads, And native way, they're not just my uncles too. They're my dads in a way, and they taught me about being a man, And even my homies, I hate to say it, in the barrio, they taught me about little things, they even taught me things like, even though they taught me a lot of bad things, but they did teach me about like how to take care of yourself. When I was out on the street doing whatever, like make sure your clothes are washed, make sure you're doing your hygiene, they taught me practical things too, like things that they learned that I probably should have learned somewhere else, but I didn't have no other opportunity, and I took what they said as gold, and so I'm glad we had those. I'm glad even that discussion, even with their own jefito. I wish I would have had that with my father as well. It's just to say, I get it, and a lot of young men, and there's a lot of that in our community. Not fathers stepping up and understanding the teachings,
and they want it, brother.
Yeah,
they really want it because. So I remember, and I tell this story often. There was a young man, a young black brother, and those of us who work behind the four walls, do any kind of healing work or whatever kind of work we do behind those four walls, we know one of the golden rules and the no-nos is when you shed a tear, right? That's a part of that culture. and this brother was one of the most ruthless brothers, known in there. And he started crying, and he got really quiet. And I was like, oh man, I got to figure out how to deal with this situation, because I know they're watching him. How's he going to respond? Anyway, I had no other option but to just to direct the attention to him and be like, hey, what's going on, man? And so he tells me, he says, Uncle, because many of them call me Theo, right? And so he says, Uncle, man, I don't think I'm ready for this. And I said, well, what do you mean, mijo? And he says, well, I'm coming home in about 4 months, and I'm going to see my daughter for the first time, because I've been, locked up, for this time, and I'm scared. And I said, no, that's a blessing, mijo. Don't be scared. You're going to do great. He said, no, Uncle, you don't understand. He said, how am I going to even play with her? When I was a child, no one played with me. No one, I don't really, he said, I don't recall a moment where someone engaged with me and played with me in a joyful moment in my childhood. And I'm scared that I'm not going to be able to make her laugh. And man, at that point, I'm hiding back my tears, and all I could do at that moment, just kind of take a little pause, help the brother walk through this phase. But the interesting thing is that it triggered all the other young brothers, and again, these are young boys, and just remind you, regardless of what they've done, that they carry these wounds, and that importance of creating that place for them to process those wounds is so critical,
Yes, they need to process it. They need to deal with it. And at the most important piece of that is, it's kind of like any wound that you have, even if it's physical, right? You need to take care of it so that it starts to heal. And in that process, it itches, it bothers you, you forget about it, but then it reminds you, you just get this sharp pain. And that's kind of, even emotional healing is a lot like that, And I think people are afraid it's never going to heal. And, if you're listening, it will heal over time. Maybe not the way you want it to, or maybe the way you wish it would, but it will heal in a way. And you could use that healing for other things in your life. Because the problem with trauma is that it's just around the corner. We don't know what it's going to look like. It manifests itself. But it is something that we battle, and it's a part of our lives, right? Or our ancestors had ways, teaching, ceremonies, different things to help us, guide us through those things. So, Brother Luis, I want you to tell me, what are you doing now? How did you, I understand now you're working for the county, for local government. And how did you build on those lessons to get to that point? Because when I first met you, I never thought you would be working for the government in this capacity or things like that. So tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, it was an interesting journey, because at the time I was actually a teacher at a school that catered or focused to young teenagers that remind me a lot of myself, and I actually loved it, Cisco. I really loved being in the classroom with them. I could relate to so many of their experiences and their perspectives. They loved me, I loved them, and the opportunity came my way because a number of people that I knew, including one of my elders, said, "Hey, look, the county is currently looking to fill this position to coordinate its efforts to deal with youth violence, gang violence, things of that nature." And I was like, Charlie, no, man, does it involve me having to be at the table with law enforcement and all that? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh no, Charlie, you got the wrong brother, man. That's not me. I'm 100% no snitching, man. I don't do that. And I'm so caught up into the world, because it's still a part of who I am through friendships or connections, that I'd be putting myself at risk. And even years later. And so they're like, one of my mentors, who's like a father figure to me, his name is Malik Farrakhan from Ceasefire to Smoke the Brothers in DC. I had that conversation with him. I said, Pops, man, they're offering me some good money, some stability, some security and benefits, something I've never really had in all these years of doing movimiento work, but I feel like I'm selling out. And he's like, no, son, you've been putting in a lot of work and you've earned this. And if you don't do it, they'll get somebody else to do it, and that person is not going to have the same corazón or compromiso to this community. And I was just with him last week because he was doing turkey dinners last week, and he brought that story up to a lot of homeboys that I came up in the streets with, and because they were all trying to figure out like you, like, how did this fool end up there, And so that's kind of how I got here, and I have to be very honest in just saying that what, Creator put me on the earth to do this, and there's no other way to say it, because I met my wife here, and through this position I met my wife. I have my familia, I sustain my familia, although my wife makes much more than I do, but, I've been able to do what I'm supposed to do on behalf of my familia through this job, and I'm living the suburb life, something I never thought. I've always been a city guy. I remember when I first moved out here in Montgomery County with my wife, I couldn't sleep because it was too damn quiet. And I was like, man, I don't hear no sirens, no gunshots. I was accustomed to that, And pero no, I mean that's kind of how I've been here. The intent was that it was only going to be for a couple years, and 16 years later, it's here. And I mean, you think about just how I've been able to bring a lot of our compadres to this work to bring those perspectives here. Whether it's been Albino Garcia, whether it's been Akil Bashir, whether it's been Maestro Jerry, Mario, Ozzy, rest in peace, Mateo Bobby Verdugo. So many of these people who've been a part of our ciclo, Luis Rodriguez, and Nani, and so on and so on, because I'm in that position, and that's something that when I became a part of this movement, I never envisioned that happening, because we always talk about this. These systems were always set up to oppress our people. They've never been about uplifting our people, and I tell people, I know a lot of my compadres, my comadres, my colleagues, they're all like, no, man, we got to dismantle the system. I say, hey, you know what? You can do that. I tried doing that for a long time. And I'm not saying that it can't be done. I'm just not the person for that. Or at least I'm not that person anymore to be able to fight that battle. Mm-hmm. But I tell you one thing, I may not be able to dismantle the system, but I sure as hell can make it bend. And make it bend to the benefit of our people, especially in this case, Black and brown people. They look like me. They've come up with these same experiences and perspectives, and that's kind of how how it is. I will tell you that I'm at that point though where I really want to make a move, but I just don't know what that next move is. I've talked to several of my maestros about it and mentors, but a saber, vamos a ver, where my journey takes me next.
Well, it sounds like it's definitely been a journey of growth and all that. It's hard. I worked with the government many times, and I worked in government, outside of government, and that balance, I would think, oh, we finally got it. And there's always this, there's always something that creeps in. A lot of times it's just fear and apathy. They're apathetic to what our young people are going through, our fathers and mothers are going through. We put it off all on the kids, but really it's a generational struggle. And the fathers need, a lot of fathers need to learn how to be a good father. I mean, I still struggle. I want to be a good father to my kids, and it's a struggle. I have to apologize a lot to them. I tell them I'm still learning. I don't have all the answers all the time, but I love you, and I want to prepare you for life. That's my job. And, we could have fun, give you experiences, things like that. It's tough, even in the community. That's what I try to do with the kids. I want to show you how to take care of yourself and show you some love and give you some guidance to do the best you can. That's all we can do, right? With that with our palabra, with our cariño, just come at it with your heart and you're going to be all right. We want to do that. So with that, what counsel or advice would you give to others in terms of their own health and healing? Because, a lot of our brothers, even at this stage, I think where we're at is heal the healers. I'm talking about this Yalder generation, our generation, bro, that have been doing the work. I think about Brother Eric. I think about even my bros in Denver, Johnny Williams, Felipe, all these different guys, Jojo. We've been around a while. We're not quite elders yet. We're still in this phase, but we are making a transition. I was just the other day, just this morning, in fact, too. All these elders of mine are dying. That were mentors of mine, that were teachers of mine in Denver, my hometown. They're passing away, and I'm thinking, who's next? And really, it's us, in a lot of ways, and it's scary in that way, But what consejo would you give, and as you reflect on it yourself?
No, you make a real good point. It's kind of funny and ironic because I know those of you like yourself who follow me on social media know that I'm also a very sarcastic person and believe in satire as a form, in its own sick way of helping myself heal or process what we're all experiencing, and many of my other friends. But one of the realities, though, that I believe has helped me, and this is really directed to us as men, is the intentionality of really not just finding those men that you need in your life to guide you, or mentors, but also your maestras, and sometimes it's just your compañeras or your friends or colegas, and just hear me. I mean, I'm blessed because I stand connected to hermanas like Carmen Perez, Gabby Tayak, Gina Rosario. I mean, so many, my sister Nina Mercer, who was one of my first homegirls when I got to the DC area. I've known her for a while. She does amazing healing work up in New York City. And so, helping to get that balance with sisters like that, because, sometimes as men, we got our stuff. And, again, I realized that, I myself, am a sarcastic person. Sometimes some satire to what I, may share through social media, but those who really know me know where I really stand, and especially those hermanas, because, they hold me accountable, and I think that's the important piece, I mean, I think even with my wife, like, she's really tough on me, but I go back to the day that I first introduced Diana to Maestro Jerry. And one of the first things that Jerry said to her, he said, "Hey, you got to train him." And Diana's like, "What?" She's like, "He's a grown man. Why do I got to train him?" He's like, "Hey, I'm telling you, you got to train this man." And from day one, she's been on me. She's been on me. And, sometimes it gets on my nerves, but, I'm always grateful for it, And even this morning I said, man, you know what? I'm so blessed to have you. And so I say that, hermano, because, whether it's mujer, hombre, lo que sea, whatever way we find love and romance in our life, or with whom, making sure that we get that balance, because we need that. We need that balance. We need our space as men, but we also need to have that space too to heal with women, as well, in a good way. And so that's an important piece in terms of how we do that, and then just being very intentional about it. Being very intentional about establishing that place to to just kind of heal and taking the moment. I turn 55 next month, and every day, man, it's just a blessing, it's a gift. You're right. We're losing a lot of elders, but we're also losing a lot of our compadres, guys that are our age. Some of them are even younger than us,
Yeah.
And so that thing of gratitude is a real critical piece. And, I always think about our compadre Mario Osuna Sanchez, who always talks about this, that a lot of times, with prayer and reflection, a lot of the, times we're kind of like just praying because in time of need. But the reality is that prayer was really intended to be an act of gratitude and being thankful and acknowledging the blessings in your life. So always reminding folks that, part of that healing is doing that, is acknowledging, hey, Creator, thank you for these blessings in my life. Because, often, like Master Jerry always talks about, it's like, man, a lot of times, we're praying, but we're not listening. And we want that immediate response. And then when the Creator provides it to us, we're still not listening. And so part of being that active listener is like at the act of gratitude and just saying, hey, you know what? Gracias, man, that I can feed my children. Gracias that I can spend that little time, you know, and, you know, singing Christmas carols on the way to school this morning with my boys, you know, those beautiful moments that I wish I could have had as a child. But, you know, Creator has brought these blessings into my life where now I can heal in that way and pass those teachings on to my next generation.
Yeah, what you said is important there. You know, it's like, how do we pass it on? How do we take advantage and love those small moments with our kids, our own kids, or kids in the community, or even our compadres? You know what I mean? Like, we definitely have to build that circle and really nurture it as well. You know what I mean? Not just take, not just take. So I want to thank you again for joining us, man. I really appreciate our conversation today. You know, it made me reflect a little bit, you know, what I want to do. You know, I'm in that transition as well. And I want to think about, you know, I'm here at NCN. I love the work, love it. Healing generations. This is what I was meant to do. But where do we take it? You know, that's where I'm thinking, you know, I can't do this forever either, but what can I do to nurture that next generation as well as contribute? You know, I'm just really trying to be thoughtful on that. So with that, bro, is there any last words? You know, how do people find you if they're interested in learning more about all things Luis?
Yeah, I don't have a website per se because again, I work for the government, pero you know, I'm on social media, man. If you dare to be brave enough to follow me, but you know, also any way I can be of help to anyone, and that's to anybody. You know, I can easily be reached at 240-372-3829, and I'll do my best to, you know, help anyone out, depending on what they're dealing with, or redirect them in a good way to those who can be of help. But always committed to, you know, to the work that all of us do, and just honored to share that space with brothers like you and so many of our other brothers in NCN and through our whole movimiento, through, you know, our National Coalition Varios Unidos and you know, PCITI and you know, brothers like Albino Garcia and, you know, Luis Rodriguez and all, you know, and so on and so on, all those brothers, Alex Sanchez, you know, I mean, this all of you, you know, are food for the soul for me and keep me going to do what I would do, and I appreciate that sense of canalismo that we have on one another and that we can lean on each other. So I'm always grateful for that.
All right. You said it the best way. You know, I want to thank you, brother. We're going to leave it at that. I want to again thank all our followers and listeners. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Healing Generations Podcast. You also can follow the National Compadres Network, nationalcompadresnetwork.org. And you could also, I want you to also follow our partners, the Healing Generations, the Brotherhood of Elders.org as well, or .net, actually. I want you to follow them. You know what I mean? Like, Brotherhood of Elders are doing beautiful work. You know, Oakland, want to give a big shout out to Baba Greg, you know, going to take attempt at politics. I really support him. But with that, you know, I support all our relatives out there doing good work. You know, I want to remind you that healing is a journey. Take the time for yourself, reflect, and just take one step at a time, man. You know, don't forget to pray. Don't forget to do good things for people, even when people ain't looking. You know what I mean? Just do it. To do it each time you do it. You know, when there's that saying that we live by, you know, when you heal, I heal. That's a truth. Surround yourself with people that are on that healing journey. Be that example if you can. I'm not saying to be perfect. Just do the best you can. You know what I mean? Work on it. That's all we can do, each and every one of us. So again, thank you, bro. Appreciate you. Much love to your wife, your familia. You know, the kind of father you are. Appreciate that. You know what I mean? I know you've been through some things, trying to make a better life. And your outreach workers, we've met many of them through the different programs, through the retiro, through training, things like that. You know, I appreciate it. They say many good things, and I think about them too. I want good prayers for them. I know they're struggling right now. A lot of stuff going on all across the country, and it's something we're going to keep, do some more stuff on, because I think we need to talk about it from this healing perspective, not just, government and things like that. We have to definitely take many approaches as possible. Our kids deserve it, you know? So again, gracias. Aho.
For more information about Healing Generations and the Healing Generations Institute, visit nationalcompadresnetwork.org and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our new releases.